Hey guys, Mark Taylor from GameSkinny, aka Lord Hammer from GuildArmor.com, and we're here for day one of E3, and we're at the Alienware booth. There's a couple of workstations that actually have Wildstar going on, and we're here with Chris Lynch. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do with Carbine?
All right. Despite what the badge says right here, I'm actually with Carbine Studios. I'm the lead combat designer, and I'm responsible for all the combat-related stuff in Wildstar. That includes dungeons, raids, PvP, classes, encounters, everything combat-related.
So if you could basically tell us a little bit about the within the PVE realm. I know there's raids, there's dungeons. Could you kind of explain maybe what the differences are and what they are?
So basically, hi, we're going to have 5-man dungeons, we're going to have 20-man raids and 40-man raids. And the difference between those is really your playstyle, right? Depends on if you like the really, really hardcore stuff. You want to do 40-man stuff? Great, we're building that for you. You want to do 20-man stuff? We're building that for you as well. Dungeons, there's going to be your entrance level stuff to basically the hardcore mechanics, right? And we start those as early as level 20 and slowly start introducing you to the more complex combat mechanics that we have at 35, 40, 45, 50, and so on.
Okay, now is that kind of paralleled in the PvP? Because I noticed you have battlegrounds, arenas, and then war plots. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the differences?
So our leveling form at PvP would be battlegrounds, and this ranges from 10 to 15 players, and it's really, you can get into it as early as level 3. You basically get in there, you start playing with random or friends, and you can gain experience and level up through PvP in the battlegrounds. Now once you get the cap, we start getting to Elder Game PvP. And Elder Game PvP is arenas, which you can have 2-man teams, 3-man teams, or 5-man teams. And then we also have war plots, which is, I'm not going to go too much into detail with that because it's still to be announced. I know Gaffney has gone to a lot of detail, so if you want to go parse through what he said a lot more than I can say.
Oh, and we've parsed, don't worry, we've parsed.
So essentially I will say it's a way for you and 40 of your closest friends to take our housing technology and see how we put it to PvP use.
Okay. I mean, and that's clearly something that people have been wanting for a long time, especially if you've been in a gamer or a consumer of online services, specifically MMOs, back to the Ultima and the Mud days of having a home and a place to put all your stuff. Can you tell us a little bit more in detail about the arenas in terms of, what's really the purpose of an arena? Because I didn't play WoW, and I know all of the people who know me know I'm not a WoW guy, but can you really tell us, what's the purpose of that, vice just a regular round of PvP?
To simplify, arenas is basically, we want to say skill versus skill. So there's going to be different forms of arenas, but you can get down to literally skill versus skill, where we standardize your stats, your equipment, and all that stuff, and we take out all the outside influencing things, and you can be your player versus somebody else's player, or your team versus somebody else's team, skill versus skill. Now, if you want to, you're going to have other modes where you can say, hey, I've collected all this gear and I want to use it in the arenas, or I want these other things to influence. But for the real purpose of it, it's skill versus skill.
Okay, now, obviously I've heard, the ELO systems and stuff like that. Are you looking at having ranked PvP day one, or is that something that's going to come in over time?
We definitely want to have it ranked PvP day one. We already have our ranking system internally. We're testing it out. Next phase of beta, it's going to actually get some beta testing. But yes, we're going to start out with day one having ranked PvP.
Okay, and then I think I've heard that the plan initially is to have cross-server direct, but if you want to do on your server, that's something where you actually have to queue longer or something like that?
One of the things we're looking at doing is to reduce queue times, is to have arenas and battlegrounds and war plots look not just on your server for opponents, but across servers. Now you will have the option to say, hey, I only want to queue for people that are on my server, just for people who want to keep the community like that. But for the most part, if you want to get into a match quick, you're going to queue for cross-realm.
Okay, very cool. Now, will it load balance for you, or is it just however you want to pick your team? So, do I have to have so many healers, so many tanks, so many DPS, or does it just, I'm going to grab X people and I can go?
For arenas or battlegrounds?
For any of the PvP.
For arenas, you're actually going to pre-form. You're going to make your team before you enter. It's going to be established, basically established entity before you even go in there. So you're going to control that yourself. Battlegrounds, we are able to basically balance the teams out because we save on the server side just how basically a hidden elo ranking, let's say, how good you are, so we can basically make sure that the teams are evenly matched per side every time it gets matched up. And we'll also try to make sure that, not only they evenly match skill-wise, but evenly match with, healers, tanks, DPS, all the roles, so that there's not one-sided competition in there.
Okay, no, that totally makes sense. I've seen some people where they try to do like all DPS to have like a buzzsaw team and burn you down before you can heal or tank or whatever, so that's kind of good.
You could queue up as a pre-formed team, but that means you're most likely to get queued up against other pre-formed teams. Just for your random stuff, you're just going to do looking for, battleground, and you're going to queue up naturally by yourself or with a couple friends.
Okay, final question, and that's you probably said it before, but this is one thing I have not really found is it definite that the gear is going to be completely separate in terms of stats? So there's definitely PVE gear versus PvP gear, or is there any kind of crossover?
I would say there's definitely going to be PVE gear and PvP gear. As far as to how different they're going to be and what that is, I'm not going to get too much into details because we're still filling that out. So I don't want to put out false information out there. But yes, there will be a difference. There will be basically progression paths for PvP and progression paths for PvE.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. All right.